Right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. It is a Friday afternoon. It's actually turning into a bit of a gloomy afternoon this side in Johannesburg. Hopefully, the weather will pick up a little bit over the weekend, as I kind of feel like this weekend is kind of calm before the storm, isn't it? There's not a lot of rugby. There are two games. We'll be live with both of them tomorrow, but no Southern Hemisphere sides in action really, and it's like the deep breath before we then go bang, 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 bang. Because literally, we've got 4 weeks today, by the way, to the World Cup. 4 weeks today. And the first game is on the 8th of September. And next weekend, we've got a stat weekend of rugby. The weekend after that, we've got a stat weekend of rugby. And then there's one weekend off. And then we go. Then we really, really go. Then it is World Cup time. So, it's kind of like an interesting time really being 4 weeks out. So to discuss how things are shaping up for the World Cup because so many squad announcements have actually happened. Some of them still to come. I think the last squad announcement is Ireland, which is said to be, and I think it's on like the 28th of August, which is quite late. We've had a lot of different squad announcements and stuff happening this week, and lots of chat about it. And today I want to talk about the BOKS squad a little bit. I want to talk about have we got it right or wrong. A lot of people coming out and saying if they reckon the BOKS squad is pretty poor, then they've gotten it wrong, and that they're not happy with it. And I want to talk about that. And I want to talk about where maybe they've gotten it right, where maybe they've gotten it wrong, and what players maybe are all of a sudden more valuable than ever in terms of our chances at the World Cup and what this means for the World Cup. So first things first, I'm gonna put a poll in the comments. I'm gonna say, are you? Because now we're 3 days on. Are you happy with the squad? Simple yes or no. When I put this up on Tuesday night when we did the fan forum, people were very iffy about it. But now we've had a couple of days to sort of kind of come to terms with it, I suppose. But yeah, go into the comments first, and I'm going to sort of have a bit of chat about it. It's Keenan was saying, I personally think it's perfect. Sax Matt saying, hey Stephen, how do you think Sia is going to play? Will he hit the ground running? I'll talk about him in a bit. Vic reckons the squad is perfect. Dexter says, I reckon get the basics right. A legit specialist in every position, plus a replacement. Has that been achieved? So far, 90%, but you need 105% if you want to win. What do I know? Campus saying, well, my comment is one of the first. Why so much hate for Mani? Have you seen Kira and Zell's edit video? Horrible. Well, there's one piece of life advice I can give you, and this is for free, by the way, completely free. There's no strings attached to this whatsoever. This is just me being a good person. Do not read SA Rugby Mag. Do not listen to those two. That is the best. That's the best advice I can give you. If you want to enjoy rugby, if you want to enjoy the sport that you watch and you love, and you want to enjoy the debate, don't watch those two. Yeah, I mean, they sort of just pride themselves in being clickbait specialists. Now, yes, clickbait is a very big part of media in general. It has to be. You have to be sensationalist across the thing, but they just create narratives for the sake of narratives, to be honest. And just don't really. I think it's very few times I've ever agreed with them. And anyway, we all know that they were responsible for, well, not those two, but the publication responsible for that whole cocaine story last year, the Springboks, which then disappeared, basically didn't happen. People are saying, well, was it basically just fabricated? So anyway, we're not going to talk about those two. They can go crack on and do whatever they want. We're going to try and be a bit more down to earth, logical, and measured, I think is the word. Until the watch long starts, in which case we just go ballistic. But yeah. So I like Dexter's point, and I think that's a very nice way of looking at the squad, is the idea of a specialist in every position and then a backup in terms of your depth and whether we've got that or not. So I think that's a very nice way of looking at it. I think that's probably going to be the angle that maybe we'll take. Kanji says, just 10 is a tough situation. Beside that, it's decent. Saying those gents ahead at 100%. Zonky says, any idea how to watch the warm-up games and the Rugby World Cup from Europe? Don't have any more contacts back in today that have Super Sport. Right, so we are going to be publishing next week a how to watch the World Cup video. In terms of the World Cup, the warm-up matches, they are all being shown on Amazon Prime, and select ones are being shown on RTE. So we do have a video on the channel saying how to watch the Autumn Nations series. So that will include basically all the games Six Nations teams play. So when we're playing the Wales, for example, it'll include that. We'll do a separate video for how to watch the All Blacks game once we know exactly what the situation is there. The good news is if you get yourself a VPN, we've got links in the description to either Bitdefender VPN or to ExpressVPN. You'll be able to watch the entire Rugby World Cup on RTE, which is a free-to-air broadcaster. So that is my recommendation. Go and get yourselves a VPN, and you'll be able to watch the entire World Cup. We're going to be doing videos for every single match on how to watch that. So literally step-by-step guide, and off you go. So yeah, that's all going to come up in the next couple of weeks. And it's a bit of a weird week, actually, because after the hype of the BOKS announcement, there actually wasn't a lot going on with regards to news. And we kind of sort of sit and wait to see what's going to happen. The BOKS are leaving tomorrow, by the way. They're having a full send-off at Tambo. It looks like it's going to be quite a big draw. Fortunately, not going to be able to get there. But yeah, if you are in Johannesburg and you'd like to get yourself to Tambo, tickets are free. I kind of never know if it's a good thing or bad thing, these big send-offs. I mean, I thought that the squad announcement was a little bit extra. I thought it was a little bit unnecessary. It could have been a lot shorter, but I suppose, you know, if you're going to throw all the tools and the resources at it. But then tomorrow is a massive send-off at Tambo. We go big when the BOKS leave, because they're one of the few teams which can actually put our hopes on, and they generally do deliver. But yes, so Vic saying Springboks never use the 10 as a playmaker. They mainly play off the 9, hence why they're willing to go with 4 scrummies. Owen says, we've got the players, my worry is the combination. Kappa saying, Money was top point scorer in both seasons of USC. Surely is good. Yes, not enough experience, but he is good. 100%. 100%. I suppose the best thing to do when talking about the BOKS squad and whether it is good enough is to actually look at the BOKS squad. And now I'm trying to work out where I saved it. There it is, and let me just make it a bit smaller so we can actually have a look at it. And there we go. So that is the BOKS squad, and we've spoken about it a lot, hasn't it? There's been a lot of tension on it, a lot of debate about it, and I think people are sort of a little bit more measured now. I think they're a little bit sort of less freaking out about it than they were a couple of days ago. But it's still lots of areas of concern. Now, the nice thing is, for example, that we have had confirmation from Jacques, you know what, of a couple of things, and there's a bit of clarity. So for example, first things first, he has confirmed that Faf de Klerk is our third choice, number 10. He has played there a couple of times for Seattle Sharks, Chase and Colby, and Jacques mentioned him, has also played there a bit for Toulon. And so there is so it's Monty number 1, Damien number 2, and then if needs to be, Faf de Klerk then come in at as our third choice 10. At the end of the day, Andre Pollard is apparently expected to be fit to, you know, in the next couple of games. So the idea is that he would be available if there's an injury in the World Cup, but there has to be an injury, by the way. You can't just sort of decide, you know what, we'd actually prefer to have Pollard, yeah, therefore you're going home, we're bringing him in. So if there are any injuries, do expect him to come into the mix, but at this stage he's not. So will we see Faf de Klerk at 10 during the World Cup? Probably not. I'd be very surprised. A lot of things would have to go wrong for that to be the case. And so the question is, are we happy with our first 2 options? Now, I'm very happy with Martin Liebach. I'm very happy with him. I think I would have loved him to be our second choice, I suppose, and then have a World Cup winning fly half in Andre Pollard fit. And yeah, if that means we go to a 5-3 split, for example, and you've got Martin Liebach off the bench, with the Damien Willemse off the bench, then for me that's pretty prime. If we go with the bomb squad tactic, then we won't see Martin Liebach, we'll see Damien Willemse. So yeah, but let's talk about the injuries a little bit. So I think Sporky to ask you who's our backup 13 if Creel goes down. I think Damien De Lindy will be the first person that would go to 13. And then very, very outside chance they'll potentially look at Kane and Moody at 13. So just walk up saying we somehow have a voodoo of pre and during World Cups are centers getting injuries. Maurice Hubert, Jean de Villiers. Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Not wrong. He's saying, he has a fantastic captain leader, but we need him to play as well as he has previously. Yeah, so with regards to Sekou, he is expected to play against Wales. He is expected to be available for the game next weekend. It'll be next weekend, the 19th of August. So it'll be interesting to see whether they start him or whether they bring him off the bench. I am not worried about him, to be perfectly honest. I think the way he's been playing over the last 3 years, that's probably the best I've ever seen him play rugby. And we all know that he puts a Springbok jersey on, and it's like he just elevates his game. So what we've got to do is we've got to give him that All Blacks game and the Wales game, and understand if he's not quite up to pace. But we've got to trust that he will be fine come the first game against Scotland, which I think he will be. And also we've kind of got the depth to be able to cope with if he isn't. So, you probably do go with a 6-2 split with Scotland, and if he's looking good, you start here with probably PSF's 20 away from Mirren. Actually, you probably go with that option, and then you have a Kwagga Smith on the bench, a Jasper Wiese on the bench, and like a Arcus Name on the bench, for example, or whatever. And then if Sia is struggling, you then say, cool, bring him off, throw on Kwagga Smith. We've got the people to and it's not about carrying him through the World Cup. It's about understanding that when he's playing well, he's one of the best players in the world. That's where he was last year. I genuinely thought that, him and Etzebeth were just on a different level to everybody else, the way they were playing. And so we've got to get him back into that form. We've got to give him as much opportunity as we can to get into that form. Now, yes, if he has a really bad game against Scotland, you then sit there going, well, do you risk him against Ireland if he's not playing at his best? Do you play somebody who's playing better? And you have to have that conversation. But he's such a valuable player, especially the way we play, that we've got to give him every chance to be ready, because when he plays well, we play well. And his leadership is unbelievable. Just Rock up saying, well, we don't have another quality 13 behind Creel. Does an independent doctor verify if there's an injury? I actually don't know what the situation regarding that is. That's an interesting point, actually, where they've got a neutral guy that comes in and says, yes, that foot is broken, when the guys think, or whether their own medical staff have got the capacity to make that call. So Abu Dhabi David says, squad deadline submission is the end of August. I wonder why they didn't name a 30-man squad on Tuesday with 3 possibles to join if Ampard and Luert wasn't available. That gives them a 3+ week window. Yeah, look, I'm not pushing the limit there. I've got the whole schedule of when every single squad's going to be announced. And there's basically an announcement almost every single day for like the next 2 weeks. And Ireland are the last team scheduled to name their squad, and that's on the 28th of August. So they really are giving it every last opportunity. All Blacks announced their squad. Argentina have announced their squad. Yes, Argentina have announced their squad. Australia have announced their squad. England have announced their squad. Wales have not announced their squad, I don't think. No, they haven't announced their squad. I suppose I can actually look. I can tell you exactly when everybody's going to be announcing their squads. Where am I going? We can go to Canada here. Canada, right. Let's go. Here we go. So yeah, I can tell you exactly. These are when the various teams are announcing their squad. So big news is that Chile will be announcing their squad on Monday to go and see what's happening. Japan on Tuesday. Scotland on the 16th of August. And they'll be on the 17th of August. France, Wales, and Romania will all be announcing their squad on Monday, the 21st of August. Italy on Tuesday, the 22nd. Which is my birthday, fun fact. So the Azzurri need to drop a heat squad on my birthday. Uruguay on Wednesday. Georgia, Ireland are announcing on the 28th of August. And there we go. Then the first team to actually arrive in France and having a welcome ceremony is actually Georgia on Wednesday, the 30th of August. The BOKS arrive in France on the 3rd of September. So we're going to I think it's Corsica. We're going for a camp, and then we're going across to France. On the 3rd of September, we will arrive in Toulon, where we'll be based for the entire World Cup. So there's the schedule, and Tip was saying, Steve, challenge question: if all standby players are 100% fit, who are you dropping from the current squad to include one of the standby? Well, you can't. So we can't just drop a player and bring somebody in. It can only be when there's injuries. So we don't really have a say in the matter. So at the end of the day it's a lot of I'm trying to sort of decide on it's a lot of, for me, I'm trying to find the right way to phrase this. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that if you look at the side, for me, there's still quite a lot of question marks with regards to who is our best 23. Because I think there's a lot of how are we actually planning on playing. Everybody keeps sort of talking about the fact that Rassie Erasmus has a a plan. And I mean, we know that Rassie Erasmus and Jacques Lamar will have plans. But if we're playing in the World Cup final tomorrow, who do we pick? Because the fact that you've got players like Grant Williams, Kane Moody, a Dion Free, I don't think will play a lot, but those two, for example, those two players in particular, those are players who are interesting picks. And I think Kane Moody, I think there's a certain amount of feeling of shit, he's got something quite special, and that he could actually do the job no matter what the type of game. Grant Williams, for me, the fact especially he's going to start, I think they see him as a bit of an ace up the sleeve, a bit of a draw card. Andre Esterhuiz versus Damien Lendi, so it's a couple of interesting decisions with regards to who our best 23 would be. 6-2 split to not 6-2 split, 5-3. Who's our best loose trio? For me, the big sort of question now is who is our number 1, number 5? Is Marvin Orie going to start at lock for the World Cup? Is Franklin Mostert going to move back into the locks and start at number 5, for example? So there's a lot of things we need to sort of answer in the next 2 weeks against Wales and against New Zealand. I think Luat Diaga it's kind of gone under the radar how big of a miss that is. We're talking about one of the best locks in the world on this day. One of the best line operators, proper number 5 lock. And we don't have him all of a sudden. And it's not an injury, it's a chest or it's a condition that they need to try and sort of diagnose. He's seeing a specialist about it. So it doesn't sound good for him at all. But that's a huge loss. And that's not a loss I think we were planning on having. I don't think Jean-Claude was going to go to the World Cup before that. Does Jean-Claude play? He'll probably play against Romania, maybe Tonga. But yeah, let's go some of the comments here again. Janae is saying David Williamson will cover fullback, centre, and fly half. Jean says, Steve, I found your channel in the middle of the British Irish Lions series, and it's so good to see your channel going for the World Cup. Enjoy it, man. You're a topper. I appreciate that. Appreciate you. Yeah, a lot of guys have been around for the long ride. So yeah, just remember, when I'm in France, it's because of you guys, and it's for you guys. If you guys are going to France, if anyone here is going to the World Cup, let us know. Our email comes across there. It is YouTube at Favorite Sports Media. Let's try and meet up. We've got plans potentially for the Tonga game, where we're going to potentially try and find a pub or something and sort of all meet up there, because I know quite a few people going to it, and I think it's going to be really cool to have a bit of a meet up, and then we'll all go to the game together. So that could be quite a cool idea. We'll even meet at the stadium like an hour and a half before and all have a beer together, which would be quite cool. I remember seeing somebody in the comments saying they were going to Tonga games. So yeah, we will be putting up, obviously we'll use the community tab there and we'll kind of tell people what the plan is. Yeah, so that should be quite cool. I would say 28th is my birthday. Hey, welcome to the August lads. Radley's saying, only guys are doing for the Merva didn't abandon their own country would have so much options. Now we failed to, and he was told he wasn't going to be good enough. He was told if he had any chance playing rugby, he had to go overseas. And I'm not mad at that. His decision. I harbor no ill feelings towards the doing for the Merva. Does he make our current squad? Absolutely, he does. And if you don't think he does, you need to watch more of him in an international setting. He's been phenomenal in international rugby. He has. So would he make our squad? Absolutely. Was he what we needed 5 years ago, 6 years ago? No, and he went over, and that's fine. It's fine. I'm not upset about him. He chose the right decision for him, and would he have made it here? Maybe, but he would have needed that side to have taken a chance on him. And so I've got no issue with something like him. Same as Paul Willemse. Would Paul Willemse be in our current squad? Probably. Was he going to make it the way his career was going? Maybe not. And that's just the way the cookie crumbles, really. Jesse Balston, can you make a video on which players you would play for each team in the group before they announce the team? Yeah, so we will be doing prediction videos throughout the World Cup for the BOKS. We'll be doing my sort of a predicted 15 and predicted 23 for those videos. I hope you guys have got your data, your fiber, your Wi-Fi all sorted, because we've got well over 600 videos planned for the World Cup. It's basically almost 10 videos a day. That's what it works out to be. The amount of content we're going to be putting up is going to be ridiculous. So I hope you guys have put in some leaves so you can try and follow things. We're going to be going live almost every single day. Previews, reviews, player ratings, 5 things learned, fan forums, the watch-alongs, everything. It's going to be absolutely mental. Saxman saying, play David and Estes together could help us beef up the backline if you have both Ches and Answer on the wings. My problem is, right now, I would never, ever start Lendi at outside 13 ahead of Creel in a big game. I like David Lendi. I think he's one of the best outside centers in the world in this day. Outside center is a completely different thing, and I think Jesse Creel is our number 1 choice at outside center. We need to back him. And You know what? We're now going to World Cup rugby, so yes, he might not be a Lakanya Am who can throw out the miracle offloads and bring the wings into play as much. He does have an offload game, but he's not a Lakanya Am. He is such a good defender. He's a phenomenal defender. He really is. The way he reads the game, the tackles he makes, and in a clutch game, I think he's going to become very important with regards to organising the defence, making his defensive reads. Yeah, Mode saying Australia announced their fourth new captain too. Yeah, Australia are an absolute mess. They're absolutely nowhere with that squad. I mean, what JD Jones is thinking, I have no idea. Terry saying some of the commentary from Irish and the Scottish fans thinking they had a good chance of beating the BOKS because Pollard are playing. Look, I think they've both got a decent chance of beating the BOKS. I don't think it's necessarily anything to do with Pollard. It's got anything to do with the fact that Scotland and Ireland are just good. And Scotland, I think we all need to start realizing, are a top side at the moment, a real top side. That French game tomorrow, I'm really much looking forward to it. But they're a good side. They really are a good side. They're not number 5 in the world by accident. You know, they're beating good sides. They're putting up performances. And when they operate, they're flipping cool side to watch as well. Bryce is saying me going to a Tonga game. Well, there we go, Bryce. Hopefully we'll meet up there. John saying I know this is random, but the only reason Lou Zamet is the fastest player in rugby is because Deontay took a sabbatical. Yeah, I'll wait to see when Deontay comes back. So Quinton saying, what's the rules around injured player replacement, fullback replacement for fullback, or any backline player will do? Yeah, any backline player will do. I don't know about the forward being replaced by a backline player. I'm not entirely sure about that, but you don't have to replace a fly half with a fly half, for example. Because in theory, you could then go and say, right, well, we've got somebody who can become a fly half, but therefore we need someone to replace him, type thing. But let's look at the squad, shall we? And, we're talking about, as I said, I think as Dexter sort of said, the depth and stuff like that. Now, where do we have holes in the squad? We've got holes in the squad at 10. We know this. We've got players. We've got probably players who are prepared to combine maybe 15 tests of fly half. We've also got holes for me a little bit at obviously at 13. Jesse Creel's fine, and look, the nice thing is at least he's conditioned. But he'll need to be fit throughout the tournament because if we play the World Cup final at this rate, unless Kanye comes back to the squad, Jesse Creel will be starting at 13. Apart from that, I think the fact that Oxen Chair is back as I said to play against Wales. I mean, I think we kind of know that our starting front row will be Oxen Chair, Bongi Manambi, and Francois Herbert. And then the question is, you want to call your Stephen Kitsov, Vincent Koch, and Malcolm Moss coming off the bench, which I don't mind. Your locks, obviously, Eben starts all your big games. The question is who starts next to him. Franco Moss and Marvin Ori. I think Archie's name will continue to be used off the bench. Loose trio. The Kwaka Smith will make all our 23s because he's so valuable in that respect. I think if Sia doesn't play, then Marco Verstappen plays. I think Peter Steph, the toy, and Franco Moss will be the 2 7s really, unless Franco's going to move back into the locks. And I think Dwayne will start against Scotland. I think Jasper will start against Romania. And then I think there'll basically be a straight shootout in terms of who starts there. Faf de Klerk is our most important scrum off. He is the number 1 choice. I'd be very interested to see next weekend. I think we might see Jaden play. Well, we have to see Jaden play. The fact that he's been picked for the World Cup squad and hasn't had any game time, he will have to at least either start next weekend or come off the bench. I personally would start him. And if Grant Williams is okay, I'll be bringing him off the bench. And then I'd probably go with Faf de Klerk against New Zealand and probably Jaden Hendrickson. So that's kind of what I would do. The wings are a coin toss, really. I mean, Cheslin Colby starts at 14. We know this, but who do we go with 11? Do we go with Kurt Lawrence? Do we go with Michael Mapimpi? Billy starts at 15. We know that the centre pairing will be Damon Delendi and Jesse Creel. Although next weekend, I'd like to see Esterhazy next to Creel for a full game. I think that would be quite cool. And then bring Damon Delendi back in for New Zealand. Then off the bench, I said I think players who are in our final 23 are your Franco Mosters, your Kwaka Smiths, maybe Achis name. I don't think Jean Klein would be really coming off the bench. I don't think Dion Free will play much apart from the sort of the other games. So I think there's a lot of players here we kind of know will not be part of the final 23, but there are definitely certain positions or certain aspects of the team which are still a little bit undecided. But what are we saying here? Barely saying I think it'll be too hard on money. I believe is going to shock the world. Guys, Money's a world-class player on his day. He's new to international rugby. There's no doubt about that. He's yet to have a bad game, really, at an international game. He didn't kick particularly well against Argentina, but he also put in the cross kick and assisted a try. So, I'd yet to say we've seen a moment or a game when Monie Liebach has looked not international quality. We've yet to see him where he's looked absolutely frazzled and he's sitting there going, shit, he's just not handling the pressure. So I think he's actually looked very comfortable so far at Test Rugby. So, people go and say, oh, well, he buckled in the URC final. He won the damn competition a year ago with the Stormers. He got them to the final once again, and he was not the reason they lost, Every fly half's going to struggle when their team is going backwards, and I think the Munster just rocked up and the Stormers didn't really know what to do. So he's definitely, there's no doubt that he's test quality. It's the experience that's the issue. And obviously the goal kicking is the big sort of, the big worry. But you have his days, and he does need to sort of tighten up a little bit. And I've no doubt he'll be spending a lot of hours practicing. But there's also other options. Perhaps Clerk kicks has actually got an incredibly high percentage for always kick for the box. So there are also other options, but I'm not worried about Monie Liebach at all. I'm not having a sleepless night saying we're not going to win the World Cup because Paul's not playing. So, yeah, Gary Smith saying, I'm hoping that our forwards can dominate and allow us to unleash a very quick backline. John said, do you really think there has to be someone young right now? I think it would make sense to take some of the older players and squeeze out their best for proper send-off, Pinal, Kutsia, and Honor. Yeah, look, I don't think you'd be bringing players in from outside the squad, but I must admit, I think something we need to start talking about is this whole idea of don't take all players to the World Cup. You must take the youngsters for experience. Why are we going to a World Cup? We go to World Cups to win World Cups. We are not no offense, a Georgia, a Chile, a Romania. We are not going into a World Cup going, it's important to sort of grow the team. Even at Italy to a certain degree, you might be able to say, right, well, let's sacrifice this World Cup in the hope that we can then be more competitive in the next World Cup. Every single time a Springbok side boards the plane for a World Cup, we are going there to win. So do not come here with this, we should be blooding Evan Roos because, he needs it for the future. No. We should be taking the 33 best players we believe can win us the World Cup. That is the only criteria. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how young you are. I don't care what the story is. When it comes to a World Cup, we are going to win. Therefore, take the players we believe we can win. This whole idea of, no, but we should be blooding youngsters for the next World Cup. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Are we going to the World Cup for the next World Cup, or we're going for now 2023? We're going for 2023. Therefore, if this player is better than this player right now, and he's better for us in this World Cup than that player, he's going. I don't care if he's 42. And now 21. You don't take youngsters just for a little bit of experience in the World Cup. Yes, if you're sitting there going, well, someone like Kane Moody, there's no doubt that this will be invaluable experience. But he's also our fourth best option at wing. And yes, there's going to be a massive reset after this World Cup, probably. The likes of, there's a lot of players on this list who will not be at the next World Cup. So it'll be a very inexperienced World Cup squad. But you're also going to spend the next 3 years blooding these players and building to the next World Cup. So they're going to have 3 years, which is what? About almost 40 tests, if you get it right, before the next World Cup starts. In fact, yeah, probably about 40 tests. You play about 12 tests a year. So you've got 36 tests plus the 6 before the World Cup. So you've got about 42 tests after this World Cup until the next World Cup. So there are plenty. So if you, for example, if somebody were to play every single one of those tests, you could have someone going into the next World Cup and it's their first World Cup, but he's played 40 tests. Now, 40 tests is a lot of tests. That's a very experienced player. 30 tests is a pretty experienced player. The country I'm in, Jason Colby, I think had like 16, 17 tests when they played in the World Cup final lost in 2019. So, yeah, that for me is a really annoying narrative where people are sitting there saying, we need to take more young players and blood them, for the future. No, I'm there to win. We are there to win. And yes, there's some of those youngsters, I'm sure it will be a great experience for them. But at the end of the day, if they're not the best option, do not take them just for experience. We're not there for experience. We're there to win. We're not there to show people what World Cup Rugby is about. We're there to come bring the damn trophy back. And we need to do whatever we need to do that. But yes, so who do we play as our starting player? As we only have one in the squad. Well, Williams has been listed as a fly half, but yes, we will start. I have no doubt. As I say, we'll be happy if Pollard doesn't make it back. I'm 100% backing our backs. Would we be happy if Pollard doesn't make it back? Well, at the end of the day, yeah, you got to back the players. And for example, we get to the quarterfinals and my BOKS playing out of his socks during the group stages, and during the Tonga game, someone gets injured. We bring back Andre Pollard. You don't start Pollard in the quarterfinal. You know, you've got to back who's gotten you there. You've got to back who's playing and who's playing well. You know, if we like sneak into the quarterfinals, Money Box having an absolute shocker. You know, Pollard comes back and plays against Tonga and plays really well. That's a whole different story. But these are the players that we believe we can do the job, and therefore we're going to back them. You got to back them. You have to back them. If you don't back them, what's the point? Evan said, I think when you look at the players individually, team looks strong, collective performance to date look a bit weak, so everything hinges on building momentum. That's a very good point, you know, is the fact that, and I think you're very right. I think if you look at individual players there, it's an absolute world quality squad. It really is. You look at, I mean, for example, a Jasper Wiese, Andre Esterhuizen are not shoo-ins to start, and they've been standout players in one of the top leagues in the world. You know, so there are players there who are absolute. I mean, John Klein had a phenomenal season for Munster. Was one of the top locks in the URC by the end of the competition. He's probably not going to make the final 23. So there's a lot of players there who are in great form, are great world-class players at domestic level that might not make the team, which shows you that the quality individual, there's no doubt that the individual quality is there, but that whole point of, you know, getting it right and as a team, getting the game plan right and being sort of, being, what's the word? I wouldn't say fair, but yeah, being aligned, that's the word, as a team is completely different. That's something that maybe we struggled with a little bit this year so far, where we've been a little bit fractured so far. So if things will kick into gear, I've no doubt that, you know, player for player, we've got the team that can beat any team in the world. You know, so but if we're slightly off it, an Ireland, a France, a New Zealand, and Scotland, to be fair, you know, those teams will punish you and can punish you. I think this is also going to be one of the most competitive World Cups we've seen in a long time. I'm annoyed about Wales and Australia and England, who've kind of all sort of fallen off the boat a little bit in the last year and made big changes. Because I think before that, if they kept a bit of momentum, then I think they would have looked pretty good going to the World Cup. But I genuinely think Argentina are contenders with the draw they've got. I think Scotland could create an upset. I think, you know, your Tongas, your Samoas, your Fijis are obviously a lot stronger with the new eligibility rules, so they'll be a little bit more competitive. So this should be a really cool World Cup from that perspective. Fair saying, I still don't understand how Jacques didn't just squeeze in Pollard into the squad, even though he hasn't had training session. He's supposedly close to being ready, so why did he just put him in? Yeah, so maybe he's not as close as we think he is. It is a very interesting idea, isn't it? Smedit saying, well, I agree that we should not take youngsters to the Rugby World Cup for experience. We are also not taking players to over 35 to the Rugby World Cup. Well, if Ireland wins the World Cup, it's because Johnny Sexton has a great tournament. And Johnny Sexton's 40 this year. That's my biggest thing. You know, Dorian Vermeulen has been phenomenal this season so far. He's kind of like sort of outplayed Jasper Wiese. There are some really good players who are older and still doing the business. So I think when you start, I think age as well, we've got to start realizing how much players are playing longer and longer and how much better they can continue playing. As I said, Johnny Sexton was nominated for the World Player of the Year last year at 39 years old. Was probably the form flyer in the world at 39 years old. So, yeah, I'm not saying everyone, it's a general rule, but there are certain players that can continue playing and can be as good, if not as better than ever. I think Deon Fourie is probably playing some of his best rugby ever, and he's the oldest Springbok to ever make a debut. Jason says, do you think Franco Moss deserves to play, seeing as he's off form and slowing down and we have Johnny Dupre? I mean, to say that Franco Moss is off form, he's played 2 games so far. I look at Franco Moss in the last 3 years and think he's been one of our top 6 best players and most consistent players. So I've got no worry about him. I think that he'll get it. I think he'll come right. So yeah, I mean, you're never going to drop him for Johnny Dupre. He played 1 half of international rugby after the spell that Franco Moss had in the last few years. I'm very happy with him. I'm not worried about him at all. Spirit say, because I keep hearing that they might try and put Pollard into the Scotland game, and I'm like, how they chose the squad and they can't put him in unless 100% correct. There has to be an injury. You can't just sort of, cheers, he goes in, he goes out, type of thing. So Yeah, I still look at that squad, and I did a video on my personal channel, and I said I still believe we can win the World Cup. I've not seen this squad does look this selection that confused me. I would have had Elton Yankees in the squad. I would have. If it's down to my Pollard, I would have taken out one of the scrum halves and I would have put Elton Yankees in. And people talk about that he put the brand into disrepute and stuff like that. At the end of the day, we're talking about a 49 cap World Cup winning fly half. Yes, he didn't play in the final, but he played in the World Cup. In the World Cup's winning squad, apparently played a huge role from an analysis point of view and a preparation point of view. He's got 49 tests. Would you prefer to see Elton Yankees, if I have to first starting at 10 or Elton Yankees, for example? I would prefer to see Elton Yankees for Damien Willemse, So that for me is a selection I would have made. I would have brought in an extra fly half and I would have left him out. And unfortunately, we probably needed another outside centre in place of one of our wings. But we just didn't. We haven't blooded anybody at outside centre. I think, controversially, unless Similani stays at the Lions, plays the entire season. I think he goes to the end of year tour last year. I think he's in the squad. I'm surprised Ronald never sort of made that got that recall. But I think Wandisile Similani was on the radar, went to Bulls, kind of fell off things, and he hasn't played at all. I think if he stays at the Lions and continues, I think if he has the season he had 2 seasons ago at the Lions, this last season, I think he would have gone the end of year tour, at the very least for the SAA team. I think he would have been part of the setup now, and I think he would have gotten the late call up because he would have needed another 13. But he went to the Bulls, and his career's taken a massive, massive nosedive. So it's very frustrating for him. It is a bit of a warning to other players. Be careful when you do when you make these moves and stuff like that, because it doesn't always go well. But yeah, he made his move. I still think he's an incredible amount of talent there, but he just doesn't just didn't get it out there. Yes, Jacques Tam was forced by the injuries. He got the squad 95 securing with the players available. Look, at the end of the day, those 3 players were available. We don't take Jean Play or we don't take Marvin Ory, one of the 2, and Lord Diago goes. We don't take a 4th scrum off, so maybe Grant Williams stays behind or Kubis Reynolds stays behind. I think generally those would be the 2. And Hunter Pollard's in there. And then we don't take Kane and Moody, Lekanya Am's there. You look at that then squad and you go, well, what changes could be made? I mean, it would have been the perfect squad. So there's no doubt that those 3 injuries are the reason that we're a bit hesitant about the squad, and at the same and then we honestly say, well, that is out of the coach's control. Those are genuine injuries, which it just happened like that, unfortunately. So, yeah, if I were to leave a scrum half behind, controversially, probably Kubis Reynolds, to be perfectly honest. And I know he's been brilliant domestically, but I think with the way we play, I think Jaden Hendricks, Faf de Klerk are incredibly important, especially Jaden Hendricks with game management. And if you want to go with one wild card scrum off, then maybe Grant Williams. This gives you something different. Although I must admit, I've got a little bit of reservation. I'd like to see more Grant Williams in the international rugby, because it's very different to domestic rugby. But the same thing as like Hershey Young, who's a bit of a draw card, bit of a wild card type player. I think Grant Williams could get something like that as well. What I want to know is what ref is in the team. Ojbar said, coaches are holding something back. I bet we would play more running rugby than you think. Theo saying, problem is that all 9 deserve in the squad. Yeah, 100%. Similani is a lost talent, sadly, at the moment. Yeah, I think, a lost talent is probably the best way to describe him. And we need to find him. Please no Lions talk. You want me to cry something? Yeah, not a single Lions player in the World Cup squad. Not a single one. Did we have one in 2019? Yeah, Alton was still with us, wasn't he? Yeah, so I mean, really, not one player. Who have you got kicking? Because I don't trust Liebach or Willems kicking. Liebach my first choice, then Faf de Klerk, then Chesson Colby, then David. So that will be my order of preference. Jaden Henderson, though, actually, to be fair, kicks. He used to kick for the under-20s. Who do you think is going to retire after the World Cup from the BOKS? Dwayne is going. He hasn't said as well. He basically said as much. I think Sia could very much retire. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I think Trevor Nyakane would probably look to retire. I think Marvin Ory, I don't think will play much after the World Cup. I think that Mapimpi retires from BOKS after the World Cup. I think really Rupani wants to continue playing. I think Kubis Ranach goes after the World Cup from the BOKS. those are probably more sort of the depth. Dion Free obviously goes after the World Cup. Apart from that, Marco Verstappen could be around. Jasper Wiese will be around. Archie Stamen will be around. John Klein could be around. Should be around. Vincent Koch could be around. Is a bit old, but Oxen Chair's got years ahead of him. Quacker Smith's got years ahead of him. France Moherba still got a couple of years ahead of him. Bongi's fine. Malcolm Marx is fine. This the toy is fine. Kitsar's fine. Franco Mostling is 32, so he could be around, but I mean, I don't see why not. Evans fine. S. Davison's fine. Moody's fine. Pat's fine. Cheslin's fine. Marnie's fine. Damien Williamson's fine. Mapimpial. Creel's fine. Hendricks is fine. Kirkley, Grant. Kurbis, yeah. I think Kurbis apparently wants to keep playing, so maybe another 2. This is just for the box, by the way. I think when Dion Free, for example, is playing URC next season. Dwayne Familia, I actually don't know if it's confirmed whether he's playing for Ulster or not next season. But Mapimpi will still play for the Sharks, for example. So these players, they're not retiring from the game. I think Dwayne probably the only one who's potentially retiring from the game. I think Dion Free will give Stormers one more season and then he'll bow out. But I'm just saying, I think those players will not play for the box beyond the World Cup. Next year, we obviously have to start the process of our next team. Yeah, so that is pretty much it. Thank you very much, everybody, for jumping in. And if I didn't get to your comments, sorry, I apologize, but there was just a lot of them, which is really cool because it's a nice show. But I will be live tomorrow evening for Wales versus England, as well as France versus Scotland. So it should be 2 games. And that should be a lot of fun. So come and join me, please. Do not wait. Don't let me watch these games in silence and alone. We got to watch Scotland because they are in our pool. We got to watch France because we could be playing in the quarters of the semis if we do get that far. And I suppose we got to watch Wales and England in case one of them stumble their way into a final and we find them over there. But yeah, please do smash like the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys all tomorrow. Have a great afternoon, and I will chat to you soon.